As another day begins here in Grand Teton, the sun rises and reveals this magnificent landscape. It has taken millions of years to create this incredible place and is home to some of the most dramatic and awe-inspiring vistas in the world. Welcome to Grand Teton National Park. Established in 1929, it has become one of the most visited national parks in the United States. The vast and rugged landscape that makes up Grand Teton wasn't created overnight. Over thousands and thousands of years, this part of the country was devastated by the collisions of tectonic plates, volcanic eruptions, and was covered with glaciers at least 3 times. The latest of these ice ages ended only about 10 to 20,000 years ago. During these ice ages, as the glaciers advanced and retreated, they left behind a changed landscape. The first of these glaciation periods, known as the Buffalo Glaciation, began at the start of the Pleistocene epoch about 2 million years ago. During that time, much of the Teton Valley was covered by ice almost 2,000 feet thick. This was estimated to be the largest and most destructive glacier to ever exist in this region. So imagine, if you will, the weight of that 2,000-foot thick glacier grinding across the valley floor, removing all of the topsoil right down to the bedrock. During this time, only the hardest of granite rock were able to survive the immense pressure under all of that glacier's weight. It was this event that primarily shaped the valley that we see today. The next glacial event that helped reshape the region was about 150,000 years ago. This glaciation period was known as Bull Lake. The Bull Lake glaciation period actually started to repair much of the damage created during the Buffalo glaciation period. It was during this time that smaller glaciers were formed and actually started to deposit their debris fields throughout the Teton Valley. Finally, to the latest event that drastically changed the landscape, the Wisconsin Glacial Event. During this glacial event, most of the lakes that now reside within Grand Teton were created. This includes Jenny, Taggart, Bradley, Lee, and Jackson Lakes. To this day, there are 11 glaciers still active within the park. The U.S. Geological Survey has named 10 of them, and they are the Teton, Middle Teton, TP, Schoolroom, Peterson, Falling Ice, Skillet, and the East, Middle, and West Triple Glaciers. In addition, there is another unnamed glacier near Glacier Peak. Now, these glaciers move on average of about 30 feet per year. They have, however, been retreating faster than they are advancing for several decades. These small glaciers that are still within the park pale in comparison to the size of the glaciers that ripped through Teton Valley millions of years ago. Glaciers are extremely effective at reshaping the landscape. Evidence of glaciation can be found in every canyon within the park. The most obvious sign of glacial activity is the overall shape of the canyon. Canyons that have been carved by glaciers have one very distinct characteristic. It's a roundish U shape. If If you look at this image of Cascade Canyon, you can see that rounded U appearance. That's in contrast to what's called a V-shaped canyon. Now, a V-shaped canyon are those that have been eroded over thousands of years by water. The Grand Canyon is an excellent example of a V-shaped canyon. As the glaciers pushed down through these canyons and out onto the valley floor, they began to gouge into the ground, creating depressions. These depressions that are left behind fill with melting glacier water and become the lakes that we see today. Another result of the glacier retreating and melting back into the canyon is the debris that is left behind. These mounds of debris, called moraines, mark the terminal edges of the advancing glacier and surround just about every lake here in Grand Teton. These moraines not only consist of boulders and gravel, but a flour-like substance created by the glacier's relentless weight and advancement. This flour-like substance helps retain moisture and creates a soil which allows trees and other flora to prosper. That is why around each lake within Grand Teton you will find it surrounded by conifer and aspen trees. In contrast, you will find very few trees in the valley simply because the nutrient-rich flour was all but washed away by melting glacial water, which never allowed that soil to form. As you walk around the lakes within Grand Teton, besides seeing all of the beautiful conifer and aspen trees located on the moraines, you will also see large granite boulders along your journey as well. The boulders you see will vary in size from some as small as footballs to other that will be larger than a car. Although these boulders are relatively close to their origin, generally within 5 to 10 miles, they still may be considered what is called a glacial erratic, meaning that the rock is not native to its surroundings. These granite boulders were carved out of the adjacent canyons by the glacier and deposited in the debris fields as the glacier melted. You will also notice that all of these boulders have one very distinct characteristic to them, that they are all devoid of any sharp corners. These boulders have been ground into a rounded shape because of the weight and pressure of the glacier as it pushed the boulder along the bedrock. Now, these boulders and debris fields, along with the U-shaped canyons, are obvious signs of glacial activity. Glaciers have helped to create the landscape that we see around us. And not only have they created one of the most picturesque landscapes in the world, they have created an environment favorable to support a wide variety of wildlife. It is these incredible sights that have made Grand Teton and its glacially formed landscape one of the most popular national parks in the country.